Welcome to our Omid Yom Shir. We are now starting a whole new perek, Aserches Umnin. Welcome to everybody here in Navas Shalom and everybody in Torah Anytime and YouTube. Aserches Umnin. The Shir's Lo Nishmas of Imor Menachem Ben Akiva. L'Refuas Chaim Ben Sete. Aviva Bas Dvoiro. Norman Crow. Nina Chaya Bas Gula Rochel. Lea Bas Tomo. And Lehatzlochas Chen Bas Yordena. Yosef Gabriel ben Marta, Hashem should send them tremendous Yeshua straight away. So before we begin the perek, let me give an introduction. This perek discusses, at least the first part discusses agreements, contracts and agreements that did not follow through. When people fail to keep to an agreement, what happens then? That's the topic of this Mishnah. You have a worker, you have an employer, you have a person who commissioned a job, then they canceled or they stood someone up, they didn't appear to do the job, things like that. That's the topic of the perek. Before we start, before we begin, I'll give a small introduction, small I would say glossary or dictionary about different types of workers in the eyes of halacha. There's one person who's called a poel, another one called a schir yoim, and another one called kablan. A poel is a person who gets paid per hour or per day, per time. You come for 1 hour, you get, 40 shekels an hour, 50 shekels an hour. You get, 100 shekel a day. That's a poel. Yeah, literally a worker. Okay. Now, 1 second. What happens if a poel wants to go back and stop working in the middle of the day? Usually he may do that. We saw in last week's parsha, it says, Kili b'nei Yisrael avodim. Hashem says, b'nei Yisrael are my slaves, they're not the slaves of other people. And therefore, if a poel doesn't feel right, doesn't feel that he wants to continue working in the middle of the day, he can stop working in the middle of the day, unless the work that he's doing is something which is time sensitive that has to be done right now. We'll discuss that later. That's a poel. What's a schir yoim? A schir yoim is a person who's also getting paid per hour. However, the schir yoim, as opposed to the poel, was not asked to do something specific. He's not asked to do a typing job on the computer. He's not asked to paint a wall. A schir yoim is a person who's rented for the day. He's a jack of all trades. Come, paint my wall, look after my baby, do shopping, and clean the floor, and create a spaceship for me. Whatever that is, that's a schir yoim. Yeah, also gets paid per hour, same thing. A kablan, we've seen that many times before already. A kablan is a whole different story. What's a kablan? A kablan, literally a contractor in today's Hebrew. A kablan is a person who gets paid not per hour, but per project, right? I don't care how long it's going to take you to build my house. I'm paying you for building my house. I don't care how long, when, and if, and what, and how you're going to sew a dress for my wife. But you get paid per dress. You sew a dress for my wife. You get paid, 4,000 shekels. Okay, that's a kabbalah. Yeah, are we okay so far? Now, we are going to see here a term called uman. Uman is a craftsman. Uman is a person who's a professional. He's a person who's really an expert in his field. Yeah, that's an uman or uman. Both are correct, by the way, to pronounce. And a soicher sa'umin. Uman is a person who's professional. And uman can be either. Uman can either be a poel or a kablan. Uman can be, let's say, I pay a seamstress to work per hour. Yeah, she's a very, very professional seamstress. She's been to all the seamstresses schools, yeah, of fashion. And what? I either pay her per hour or I pay her per dress, per project, and then she's a kablan, okay? These are just the terms we have to know before we start. You can see it in Tosfos, the Tiferes Yisrael in the Mishnah speaks about it. Now we can actually dive in. A soicher sa'umnin, a person rented, or I would say hired, umnin, a person hired umnin. He hired some professional people to do work for him. He doesn't say whether they're poelim or not. V'hit uzeh etzeh. They misled each other, meaning, as the Gemara is going to explain, the poelim themselves misled each other, which means that will be today's topic in the Gemara. The entire day, the entire shir will concentrate on that. What happens if I tell one person, Reuven, you're a very good painter. I have a big house to paint. You call your other friends, the painters, yeah, everybody there in painters.com, I want you, Reuven, to get me. You'll be like my agent to get the other workers, the other painters come paint my house. And Reuven misled his friends. Exactly what happens, why, what, and where, everything will be explained in the Gemara very much in depth. And says the Mishnah, En lem ze al ze elato omois, which means the only claim that the other workers may have against either the balabais, the commissioner, or against the person who's the agent is just a toromis, which really means in simple language, bad feeling. In other words, they can't claim in this particular case, which we'll see in the Gemara, yeah, there's some kind of misleading that's done that they cannot take the person to Beis Din for misleading them. They're allowed to feel bad about him because Tamas, they're not allowed to feel bad about another Jew, can't hate another Jew. If he did that, they're allowed to feel bear a grudge against him, but nothing else. All that, I promise you, will be explained today. That actually is today's topic in the Gemara, but it's not what we're explaining right now. Second case. Sachar is a chamar ves a kadar. A person hired a chamar, a donkey driver, which today would be a schlepper or a taxi driver or a van driver. Ves a kadar, either kadar or karar. Like karar, like karon, like a car in English, or karo, which means a person got a driver. A person got, back then, a karar would be a person who drives, who schleps, he drives like a wagon. Yeah. A person got, bekitzer, he hired somebody, lahovi preferin v'chalilim, to either bring, preferin are nice ornaments, or actually sticks, the poles for the chuppah. Yeah, very nice poles for the chuppah. The chalilim, the flutes, lakala or lemes. Funnily enough, either for a chasana, yeah, he hired somebody to bring him the instruments for the chasana, so people should play, or for the mace. But in the levaya, didn't play nice music, but they would have like mekoinana, so would have women who would wail and cry, and people would also like play sad songs. Bekitzer, yeah, for kina. So now these are things that are time sensitive. Imagine yourself, a person's daughter is getting married tonight, right? Okay. Or chas v'shalom levaya tonight, chalila. And then he hired someone to bring him the music or to play the music. Or another time-sensitive issue, upoyalin. Oh, see the word? Poyalin. Poyalin are people who are paid per hour. Lehalois pishtono min mishra. Someone wants to have his pishtan, his flex. Yeah, he has the flex. How's flex? Flex is something that grows, the fibers who grow inside stalks of flowers. You put them in water, and then afterwards you take them out. You put them in the oven. So now, if they stay too long in the mishra, in the water, if they soak for too long, they go bad. They start stinking. They go bad. So it's really, really urgent for me right now that someone should actually get the pishtan out of the water, because it's not something that bears waiting. It's very time sensitive and urgent. The chol dover she'oved. Oh, anything else that's a dover ha'oved, anything else which is, it's dover oved, like in Cholamoid, right? Like in the 9 days. Anything that if you don't do it right now, it's going to get lost. The chazu bahen, opa, listen to this. They just completely stood him up. He calls the guy. My daughter's getting married in 2 hours' time. I'm here in the hall. Where are you, Mr. Musician? Where are you, big singer? I'm on a holiday in Cyprus. Oh. He completely stood him up. Chazal band, they said, no, I regret. I'm not interested in doing the job. But tonight is a wedding. It's not something. So again, a worker may regret the agreement if it's not time sensitive. If it's painting my house, okay, if not today, then tomorrow. But if the chasan is tonight, I need the music tonight, right? Or I'll have to do the other way. So then if you stand me up, you have no reshus to do that. So what is the Baal Abais allowed to do halachically? The person commissioning the job, what's he going to do according to halacha? Makam she'en sham odom. Let's say he cannot quickly find another person, let's say another musician to do the job. Let's say he's really stuck high and dry. He has nothing. There's no other person to do the job for the same amount of money. This orchestra, this band, they abandoned him. So now he's calling another band. They can do it for the same amount of money. Fine. But let's say that doesn't happen. Soicher alein oy matan. What's soicher alein? Soicher alein means that he's allowed to now hire another band of musicians, let's say, for more money. for more money. 2 hours before the event, it's going, instead of the mesamchim, which stood him up, he's calling the menagnim. The menagnim say, now, 2 hours before the chasana, we're not going to charge you 5,000 shekels, we'll charge you 7,000 shekels. He'll pay the menagnim 7,000 shekels, the new band, and who's going to pay that 7,000 shekels? Those who stood them up, because it's their responsibility. They're being horrible, yeah, and therefore it's their responsibility. They have no issues to do that. They're going to pay for the high price. Or even better, oy mat'an. He may mislead them. The person who was misled by them may mislead them, which means, let's say he tells them, oh, you're not coming for your 5,000 shekels job. You all of a sudden stand me up. You're on your way to, I don't know, a nice holiday in, I don't know where, in Cancun. So then what? I'm going to pay you 10,000. Ooh, 10,000 for that, we're going to come. Hey, they're coming back from that bag. Yeah, for 10,000, we'll make it. Although they're really, really, really not being fair. Because originally they agreed and they signed and did Kinyan for 5,000, right? And now they're all of a sudden coming only for 10. He may, at the end of the wedding, they play, all very nice. He'll pay them at the end of the wedding. How much? 5. Yeah, that's the knas. That's what should be done to people who behave that way. I'm talking very balabachishly, very general. Again, that's not today's topic. No questions here. That's just the Mishnah. That Gemara will discuss that later. Oh, now we have case number 3, and that is a very, very, very interesting case. Case number 3. Again, these are craftsmen. Now, here the umanin are kablonim. The following people we're about to talk about are people who work per job. Okay? Imagine yourself, imaginary, guided imagination. Imagine yourself, you have a very big room to paint, and the room, they take this painter or group of painters. For that room, they would charge 10,000 shekels. Or for the big house, I don't know, big, small, they charge 10,000 shekels. Okay? They did now, you know what? Let's talk about smaller numbers to keep it simple. Let's say there's one wall that they're supposed to paint, one major wall, 1,000 shekels. That's what they agreed upon. They agreed a wall, 1,000 shekels you get if you paint the entire wall. All very nice. Now, in the middle of the wall, they painted half a wall beautifully. Sunday, half a wall is done, stunning. And then they stopped. Comes Monday, where are you guys? We're not interested. We are leaving you in the middle of everything, leaving you in the lurch, yeah. And we're not interested in coming back. Science fiction never happens, yeah. We got a good deal to go to Bulgaria. So now what? We are leaving you behind. Aham, aham, aham. So then says the Mishnah, Yodam ala tachtoino. They always have the lower hand. They're always going to lose. Now, this needs a little bit of explanation. Says Rashi, I'm not saying Rashi inside, but yeah, imagine yourself, this is the wall. Half the wall is painted. How much is the entire wall? 1,000. Now, you think that 1,000 is 500 plus 500. Well, that's not always true. Well, why? There are 2 ways to look at it. First of all, before we talk about the numbers on the wall, what would you do if they stand you up? You shout and scream and everything, but Lamaisa, they're not coming. You need the wall painted. Yeah, you can't have half a wall painted. You're calling other people. Yeah, Reuven, Shimon, the painters, they failed you, right? And now you're going to call Levi and Yehuda. They should do the other half. How much are Levi and Yehuda charging? Oh, there could be 2 scenarios. Now, let's say scenario number 1. Reuven and Shimon, you don't know what to do to them. They're not coming. Yeah. By the way, they still hold you owe them 500 because they did a very nice job for half the wall. Now you're calling Levi Yehuda. Levi and Yehuda say, to paint the wall, half a wall, you don't know, mister, but prices went up. And they're right. Prices went up. And now for Levi and Yehuda, for the other half of the wall, they're charging me 700, not 500. Yeah, because prices went up. Now I will have to pay Levi and Yehuda 700. How much will I have to pay now Reuven and Shimon? 300. You guys are smart. 300. Because I'm telling Levi and Yehuda, to Reuven and Shimon, the Schwindlers, I'm sorry. I'm not looking at half and half. I'm looking at the entire job together. And with that vision, I only have to spend 1,000. I don't have to spend more than 1,000 because you guys stood me up on your way to a nice vacation, right? Now, what happens the other way? What happens? 500 I owe Reuven Shimon. I don't like them, but I owe them 500. Now the other half, prices went down. I found somebody cheaper. Wow, Levi and Yehuda can do that for 300. How much will I pay all in all? I'll pay the first one's 500. Yeah, still. and the other one's 300. Now Reuven and Shimon and Mekayim tell me, listen, Levi and Yehuda, really, they're connected to us. They finished our job. So if you look at the entire wall, you planned on spending what? 1,000 shekels. Why do you look at it half and half? Look at the whole thing together. So give us now 700. That's Avamina. We say, no, 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 no. It's a very interesting way of thinking that the entire wall was 1,000 and I Ki'ilu made money. Had they continued Reuven Shimon, they would have spent 1,000. Now, because they stood me up, I saved money. And now instead of 1,000, in total, I paid less. I paid 700, right? Or whatever, less. Oh, I made money? Yes. I made money on you because you're the one who swindled me. You're the one who stood me up. So we always look at it in a way that is negative for the one who was not Beseder and stood the other one up. Either you pay just 1,000 or you pay even less if the other ones were cheaper, the second group. Give me a second to now go the other way around, and then I'll hear questions at the end of the Mishnah. Ein Vav Amud Aleph, we are now in the second opposite case. In Balabais Choizer Boy, what happens exactly the same case? Reuven and Shimon are very diligent, nice painters. They painted half the wall for 500. The second day, they get a phone call from the Balabais, from the owner of the house. You guys don't have to come. What do you mean? You promised to have a deal. No, no, no. I found other people cheaper, better. Oh, he's not Beseder. He's lying to them. He's not lying. He's just not being, he's dishonest and he's not fulfilling his word. Then what happens when he's painting the other half? Now the other half, Yoda Latachtoino, which means, let's say he found more expensive people, right? 500 is those who he dismissed. The other half, he now found people, prices went up against what he thought. Now he owes 700 to the second group. Now instead of paying what? 1,000, he'll pay 1,200. 500 for them and 700 for the second group. Is he losing? Yes, he's losing. And we're not going to say there's a total of 1,000 and I'll give Reuven and Shimon less. No way, it's your fault. What about the other way? What about it now? That's a bigger chiddush. What about if now the second group, as he was hoping, is cheaper? Instead of 500, they're only charging 300 for the second half, the second group that came. Then all in all, will he make money and say, ha ha ha, I canceled Reuven and Shimon. He's going to tell all his friends in the shtibel how smarties, as some people are. I fired them, 500. And the second ones, instead of 500, it got cheaper, only 300. All in all, instead of 1,000, 800. No, mister, don't play games. Because it's your fault. You have to pay an entire 1,000, which means what? You pay 300 to them and 700 to the first one, which is your fault for swindling them. In other words, basically, there's always two ways to look at the work. Do we look at each segment separately, or do we look at the whole thing together and say, I planned on spending 1,000, not a penny more, not a penny less? Both visions are correct. How do you view it? We always view it against the person who's not Beseder. We always view it, we always take the approach which makes the person who's not really, really wrong for standing people up, he's always going to lose. Let me just read two more cases, and I'll hear a question. Any person who changes, any craftsman who changes against the will of Balabais, the Balabais, the person commissioning the job, asks the person, that's the case of Bava Metzia, Daf Kuf Kuf Beis, he asked him, paint this bunch of wool for me black, and he painted it red. Let's say, or the other way, red and painted it black. So he did a very nice job, and some people would actually buy it, and it's worth something, but it's not what I was asking for. Should I pay the person who did a good job but didn't do my job? I asked him to dye it red, and he dyed it black. So we say Yoda Latachtoino. What's Yoda Latachtoino? We always view the lower one, which means if the investment that he invested was, let's say, 200 shekels, with a very nice shiny black paint, I asked him for red, and he did black. Now, he invested 200 shekels. Now he can sell it in the market for 300. I'll pay him only the 200. What? The expenses. If he spent 200 shekels and it's now only worth 100, a loss, mamish a loss for him, I'll pay him only 100. I'll always pay for the lower point, either the expenses or the result. Why? Because I have to pay you something. You did invest. You did a nice job, but not what I was asking for. And therefore, we're trying to, be in the middle. It's machlokes tanoim there, but this is how we paskin Yoda Latachtoino. I pay you but I pay you the least, the lesser of the two options. And the last line, whoever regrets, whoever changes his mind, Rashi says that will be discussed in the Gemara. That discusses the person who bought a field and the Lot Chazorah to be discussed later. Question time. Let's go. As the Gemara. The Gemara now will elaborate and explain in depth and length the first case of the Mishnah. What's the first case? Let's see. The very first case of the Mishnah does not talk about people who regretted or people who changed their minds and misled each other, meaning we're not talking here about workers versus balabais, which is the second case, which means they misled each other, the poyalim, the atu poyalim adodi. We're talking in the very, very first case of the Mishnah, internal politics, so to speak, between the polim and themselves. Something went wrong, something went awry between the polim and themselves, and then we say they only have the right to be angry and not more than that. Hey Chidami, what's the story? Well, how did they mislead each other? Says the Gemara, this is a very, very, very key sentence in the Sugya. We have to understand that. The Omer lebalabais. The balabais told one guy, called him Reuven, of course, Zil, go, Reuven. Oiger lipoilim, go and hire for me other workers. I know you're a very good, diligent macher. You also have Havana, you're a big maven in painting. Get me other painters, yeah, and you serve as my shliach, the Ritva says. You're my agent, my shliach, and get me other people to work. All very nice. The ozal ihuvat inhu. Oh, Reuven, the kochalefale, Reuven went and somehow misled the other poyalim. What do you mean? Echidami, what's the story? How did he mislead them? And by the way, you have to understand one thing, because we're going to have a lot of different options here. It's going to be like a slalom. We have to always find a case here. That's the key to understand. We're going to find a case that his misleading was bad enough that they're allowed to feel resentment halachically, but he's not that bad they cannot take him to Beis Din. You understand? We're walking between the drops here. We have to find a case where it's a real case of like, I'm not overseen as chinam. On the other hand, it's not real enough to actually take him to Beis Din and claim money. Well, what's the story? Let's try and find cases. Excuse me 1 second. How is that? That's a balabais told the Reuven, the agent, hire me people, and at the end of the day of painting, I'll give them 4. Yeah, I'll give them 4. Actually, these are poyalim, not a kablonim. These are poyalim. At the end of the working day, I'll give them 4 zuz. Very nice. And he came and told them 3. In other words, the agent told the guys, hey, Levi, Shimon, Yudah, hey, this guy, the rich guy over there wants to paint his house. They'll give each one of you 3. They said, great. We're willing to work for 3, not for free, but for 3. 3 per day. Very nice. And then you know what happened at the end of the day? They see the balabais gives them 3. They all of a sudden find out the balabais originally planned on giving them 4. And all of a sudden they say, hey, Reuven schwindled us. The balabais was willing to give us 4, and we were keilu, sold for cheap. And really only 3. Maybe that's a taromis, because we know balabais really planned on giving us 4, and Reuven lowered the price. Zog the Gemara, taromis ma'videte. It's not enough to have taromis. Taromis also has its standards. Shover v'kabil. What do you mean? They accepted it. If you guys, Lamaisa, agreed clearly, we'll see later with their unclear cases. If you said, yes, 3, 3, 3, here, you wrote in the WhatsApp, you wrote in the email, I'm willing for work for 3, says you, the painter. Then what? 3 is what you agree. Because you could have made more, that's not a taroimis. It's not a nice guy, Reuven. It's not a real, substantial taroimis, because Lamaisa, you agreed to get what? To pay for 3, to get paid 3. Elamai. Now we're trying to do the other way. Now let's work the other way around. Let's say Balabais told him 3, which means Balabais told Reuven, go hire workers for me. For how much? For 3 zuz per day. This Reuven is a kochalefel, as you can see, is a macher. And he says, if you go to paint the Balabas's house, he'll give you 4. Interesting. And then at the end of the day, they're really stuck. Why? They're coming expecting how much? 4. They were told by the agent 4. Balbas at the end of the day gives each one an envelope, bank transfer of what? 3. Hey, where's the missing zuz? Oh, but now the question is it Toroimis or is it only Toroimis? Hey, Chidami, what's the story? Mimanavshach. The question now starts when the agent told them, go to that balabas and you'll pay them 4. Who is responsible for the payment? The agent said, I am the one responsible, he'll pay you? Or did he say he will pay you and he's responsible? Of course, the one enjoying and benefiting is balabas with a painted house, a freshly painted house. But who is the one in charge of actually the payment? Says the Gemara like this. If he told them, Schorchem olai, if he said, it's on me, I am responsible for you being paid, netiv lumididei, then it's not just the Toroimis. He should jolly well, what? Pay them the missing shekel, the missing zuz. Balabais pays them 3 because that's what he promised. And the one, the big chochom, who promised the more, should stand by his word because he said, I'm responsible, be a man, be responsible, to take him to Beis Din, not just bad feeling. And we proved that from a brisa, the Tanya. It says in the brisa, a person hired a poel, a worker, to work in his own house. Yeah, he called the guy, please come do work in my house. Yeah, very funny way of working. He wants to surprise his friend, his neighbor. Let's say the gardener. Yeah, you get a gardener for, I don't know, 2,000 shekels to do up my garden, to trim and weed and put some roses. I don't know how much it costs, whatever, let's say 2,000. And instead of showing him his own garden, he showed him his friend's garden. He basically commissioned someone being responsible, saying it's my house, and really was his friend's house. And he very nicely got the gardener to tend to his neighbor's garden. Let's say it's 2,000 shekels for what the gardener is asking for. Who has to pay him 2,000 shekels? The one who commissioned the job, who's not the owner of the garden, the one who led the whole story, the brains. The chayzer v'notem l'alabais mashino. Oh, now the balabas comes back from Chutz La'aretz. He sees a beautiful garden. He says, "Wow, thank you so much," to the neighbor. The neighbor says, "You're welcome. 2,000 shekel bill." He says, "What? I didn't commission that." Says the neighbor, the big Baal Chesed, "Yeah, but it's 2,000 shekels, and you're enjoying it. You're enjoying the roses and the daisies and the this and all the, yeah." He says, "You're right, but I would only pay for that 1,500. And you know what? Here, I'll go online and show you. Many gardeners do 1,500. Then what do we say? 1,500, which is the hano, the going rate, the basic. The owner has to pay because he enjoys it at the end of the day, even though it was done without his knowledge. That can be discussed in a later perek. But the Maisa, that's halacha. You have something in your pocket, but the other 500, the difference, who has to pay that? The one who commissioned the job. And that's exactly the same story over here. Let's repeat, let's review. Again, what's the story over here? There is a very big kochalefele here. Although he was told by Balabais, hire me workers for how much? 3. He says to the workers, probably to get them to work, he says, no, let's go paint that Balabas's house. And what? You'll pay us 4. And I am responsible that it's going to be 4. Very nice. It's not just Toromis. At the end of the day, Hochenvei, Shoit Veshever. Ooh, horrible. He's paying us only 3? That's not just Toromis. Yeah, Balabais pays 3 as he promised. Balabais is an honest guy. And Mr. Kochalefele, the middle guy, should pay the 1 difference. Obviously, mamish like the case of the garden. You're the one who invented the extra 4th, and you're responsible for it. Pay for it. It's not just anger. They'll take him to Beis Din. So that's definitely not our case. Elamai, and says Gemara lo tzricha, must be domerlu schochem al balabais. Oh, he told them, you know what? No. The balabais is the responsible guy. He is responsible, says Reuven, the shliach, the agent. The balabais, the owner of the house, he will pay you 4, and it's his responsibility. He stam lied to them. Comes the balabais and tells them, no, I always, never ever spoke about 4. Since the beginning of the project, I spoke about 3. I'll show you the WhatsApps. I'll show you the emails. Look, I'll show you the candid cameras. What? It's 3. So basically, now the poel is now smiling, saying, I didn't say I'm responsible. I said he's responsible. Now that poel agent is stam a petty liar. But they don't have any real claim halachically against him. He didn't steal. It's not even groma. If that's what you want to ask, the Rishonim say it's not even groma because he didn't do anything. He still lied to them. He lied to them that so and so will give the money. That's all. It's like I'm telling you, you please, you go, and he'll give you 10,000 pounds. Finished and I ran away. Yeah, he won't give you 10,000 pounds, and it ever maybe you could. I don't know. Well, Lamaisa, there's not. It's time Pasha downright lie, and Mimela, all they can have is grudge against him, feeling bad, and Toroimis. But there's no halachic claim over here because he never was responsible. That liar was very careful with his words. They feel very bad about him. I don't think his kids will let you do him very easily. But Lamaisa, sorry. And Lamaisa, beyond that, nothing happens. That's what the Gemara wants to say at this stage. Perek the Gemara. Perek the Gemara. Now, yeah, you okay? Questions? Yeah. Welcome, by the way, to our new member, Yaakov. We're very happy to have you here. And I want to hear your question. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, weiter. Perek the Gemara. Let's diffuse the tension here. Perek the Gemara. Velech zipoli mechimidgari. Let's see how poyalim actually, usually, what is the going rate for the poyalim? In other words, let's summarize again. Let's see where we're holding and understand the question. What are we saying here? The Balabai said, I'm going to get them for how much? For 3, yeah? And then he's promised them 4. The middle guy, the Kochalefale, the guy in the middle says 4, right? And now they expect 4, they only get 3. Now, the question is, what is the going rate? You have to find, in order to have Terumas, you have to find out what is the going rate. Explains Rashi. I want to see this Rashi inside. Look at Rashi, the Bamaschil, it's right, tiny bit above where we are, but not much. If the normal going rate by everybody is 4, what do you mean? If the going rate is really 4, the Balabais should really give them 4. Right? Which means, remember the case of the gardener? Yeah. I got my neighbor a gardener for 2,000. Normal gardeners, they pay 1,000, they get paid 1,500. All they have to do is 1,500, no more than that, right? Okay. Now, what happens if, can you say less than 1,500? No. You have to pay the going rate. That's called a no. That's masha now, right? I'm sorry. I have an issue here. I apologize. Yeah, thank you. That got me a little bit upset. I'm sorry. Again, same thing by the Balabais. What do you mean Balabais said only 3 and the big liar said 4? Lie? What do you mean a lie? If the going rate is really 4, the Balabais really should pay them 4 because this is, are you allowed to pay people by law less than minimum wages? No, they can take you to court. They do that in Israel and I'm sure in America and in England. In Chile, I don't know. Yeah, in other words, don't pay below wages. Or in halacha, you're nehene, you enjoyed, you benefited from 4. Then that's the end of the story. There should be an objective kind of standard. Continues Rashi. On the other hand, let's say the going rate, the standard rate is 3. Then then they have no right to be angry. Why? Because if he promised them 4, it's like I would say, imagine yourself, I would tell you, can you come to my house to, I don't know, do some job, look after my children, and I'll pay you $1 million. It's one of my funny jokes. Everybody knows nobody gets babysitting $1 million. I don't think even in Bel Air. In other words, yeah, if really the going rate is 3, so did they really expect 4? In other words, why are we getting so messed up with what they expected and this and that? Let's see what the standard rate is. If the standard rate is 4, they should get 4. And if the going rate is 3, then how could they claim 4? They were promised 4. Everybody knows that 4 is way above. So let's decide what the standard is and stop this Altarumis business. Answers the Gemara, and here we're going to have several answers. Answers the Gemara. Lo itzricha. No, the ikademiga barba, the ikademiga b'shloisha, b'tloso. Very good. Some people, they hire themselves for how much? 4. And some for 3. There are 2 rates. Yeah. Ever did, market research? I did market research recently for painting my daughter's room. Believe me, it's not all the same price. There are big differences, how people charge. Yeah, I don't know about the quality, experience. Same thing over here. Some people, in order to do the job, they take 4. per day, and some take 3. And therefore, that leaves us room for this margin of error. The Omrulei, they tell the agent, we're angry with you. Why? Ilav de Omatlan Barbo, had you not promised us 4, which is a feasible kind of salary to get for, Tarchinan, we would do an extra, we would work extra hard. With Garinan Barbo, we could have found another balabais, another person looking for the job who do it for 4. Get it? Some people do pay 4. That guy down the street with a nice fancy house, he pays 4. We would have gone there. It's not castles in there. It's real. You told us 4, and we really were paid 3. We lost. Why did we lose? Because we would have really gone to a guy who pays 4. Because some people do pay 4. Now, it's not a real thing in Beis Din because he only spoke. He didn't do anything with his hands. But Lamaisa, indirectly, he misled them. There's a tarumas here. Second answer, really, everybody gets paid how much? They get paid 3. Why did they all of a sudden believe to the 4? These poyalim, they have their own fields. They have their own fields to tend to. They have their own houses to paint and their own things to do. The Amrulay, they tell the agent, Ilav de Omatlan Barbo, we only work above the regular price and we're known for that. In other words, you know what some working women say many, many times in Israel? Not worth it for me to work outside the house because then the amount of money I pay for the childcare is the same amount that I make in my job. I'll stay home, look after my baby, not gain and not lose. That's what these people are saying. 3 per hour, which is the standard, is not worth it for us because we can work our own fields at the same time instead of paying somebody else. We are known to be working only for how much? For more than the minimum, for 4. We are known to be snobbish, 4 zuz kind of people. If not for you telling us 4, have a Zealand ben Milselis gui. It would cheapen us. It would be below us to Bechlal rent ourselves out, to Bechlal higher. Yeah, to rent ourselves out. We wouldn't have done that. Therefore, in this particular case, they say, oh, it's a taroimis. We wouldn't have done the job otherwise. Again, there's no real financial loss here because they didn't lose. Because Lamaisa, the Balbais paid them 3, which is what everybody else gets paid. It's not below. But Lamaisa, indirectly, this guy got them to work in something they're not interested. A third answer. Back to square one. The regular black workers. They're not anybody with a field with some fancy kind of salary. However, they say the Amrilei, they tell him, now this is real claim. Kevin the Omatlan Balbo, you told us, guys, everybody else gets 3, you get 4. It's not castles in the air. It's like he promised them more money. You tell me, when people are promised more money, is that what? An incentive to work better. Tarchinan, we worked hard. We did an extra good job for you. We worked in your field way better than normal. Normally, when we get 3 shekels a day, 3 zuz a day, we do a regular job. Here, we had in mind the fantasy of getting 4 at the end of the day. We did a much better job. Wait, if so, this is a real claim. The L'chor, they can take it in Beis Din, right? Shulchan Aruch says that. Yeah. You understand now the question that I have? The Gemara has a hidden question here. If really they did a better job, it's not just a rumors. They can go to Beis Din, take a photo of the good job they did, and say, we really did the job worth 4 zuzim. We want now 4 zuz from who? From the Schwindler guy. Answers the Gemara. Track the Gemara. Let's see the work. Let's see if the work is really a 4 zuz kind of work. Let's see if the top of the cream kind of work. And if yes, then it's not just a rumus. They really should claim an extra zuz, right? In fact, they should claim that from Balabais, not from the Schwindler. The Schwindler is not the Schwindler. He was right. He told them do a job of 4. Balabais should pay them 4 because he really got 4. It's Balabais should pay them 4, even though he promised 3, but he got 4. That's what he got in his hands, a 4 shekel level work. Answers Gemara Berifka. We're talking here that they were plowing. And when it comes to plowing, you don't know if it's a good job or a bad job. Says Gemara, why? Rivka Nami made the Yoda. Why? Even when it comes to furrows, I assume some furrows are very, very nice and straight and clean and good, and some of them are a botched job. So why can't you see if it's a good job, bring Eidim to Beis Din, and see if it's good or bad? If it's really for 4 zuz kind of work, you should take him to Beis Din, not just to Rumas. And it says Gemara, Demali Maya velo Yadia. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Enechnami. If you consider the job is a better, nicer job, they should be paid more. Here we're talking about a case of what? It's full of water, so you can't tell. Yeah, because the furrows are full of water, then you can't tell inside how deep or good or straight or this, whatever. I'm not a farmer, I don't know. The kids, you can't tell because you cannot tell. It's their claim. They claim they did a better job. They're either right or wrong. They can't really claim another shekel because they claim they did a better job. They either did or didn't. The shenkin, the tarumis they're allowed to have. They have tarumis on who? On who? On the middleman. Because you promised 4 and they claim they did a job before, and real Balabais only planned on giving us 3, and you are the one who misled us. We're angry with you. Now, Iboy Sema, 1 second. And yeah, you can actually ask questions now. Now is a good time for questions. Oh, up until now, before we continue, let's summarize. One case is what they were offered less than what the Balabai said, maybe less than the going rate, less than whatever, but they agreed. So the Gemara says that's not Torah. You agreed black and white. It's here, WhatsApp, email, the contract. He agreed less. Fine. Then go for less. Don't be angry that you could have done more because Balbai conceptually agreed more. That's the first case which we rejected. So what did we say is the real case of the Mishnah of Torah Oimes? The other way around. They're promised more. They're promised more than the going rate, more than the going rate, or the higher side of the going rate. There are 2 going rates. And really, they're not being paid the lower rate. That they're angry with. Why are they angry with? Because one of 3 reasons. Either they said, we would have hired for higher, we would hire ourselves for a higher price, and now you're selling us short. We would have gone to somebody who paid us more, because some people do. Secondly, we are known to be expensive. We are known to be expensive because we have our own job at home and we don't go for less than 4. Thirdly, they can say, no, we're very sorry, but Pashut, we did a better job. We did a better job for you, so you have to pay us more. We did a job worth 4, not a job worth 3. These are the answers. Now the Gemara is going full circle to go back to the original answer. Iboy Sema. Now we're going back to case number 1, when they were offered less by the middleman. They were offered less than the real offer of the Balabais. Iboy Sema. Lo'olam, really, the Balabais Balbo. Really, Balabais told the agent, the shliach, hire me people with 4. The Ozel Ihu, he went, Omalu Bitloso. He went and he promised 3. And they agreed to 3. I with the Komar Sover Vekabil. The Gemara before and says, hey guys, you agreed, Sovu, you accept you thought about it and accepted it. You accepted the lower job, so who are you angry with? Answers the Gemara, you know who they're angry with? The Balabais, not the agent. Why? The Amri Lei, the Poilim can tell the Balabais, Lei Slach, don't you believe in the concept of Al Timna Tov Mi Be'olav? Don't you agree with the concept of don't take something good from somebody that may be able to enjoy it? What does that mean? You, Mr. Balabais, don't give us this, nice face, smiley face, and say, oh, I planned on giving you 4, but I can see you're willing to get it for 3. You're right, Mr. Balabos. We did agree to 3. We didn't know originally you planned on paying 4. You already had a budget. Yeah, when you budgeted that work, you're planning on giving 4 per person, right? And by your fluke, by your luck that you have an agent that's good for you, that he initiated 3, you made ki'ilu margin of profit on us. We don't have a real claim, because Lamaisa, we agreed to 3. But from your side of the coin, yeah, excuse the pun, from your side of the story, you have now made on us indirectly 1 zuz per person. With those zuzim that you planned on paying us, now you're going to buy ice creams and candies that I don't know what to your children, right? For your children. That fills them with a feeling of grudge. That fills them with, it's not claim on based in, because they agreed, but the feeling inside is legitimate to feel a bit of a kvetch, because you did plan that to be given to us. Altim Natov Mi Be'olav. Don't take away the good from its potential owners. We were the potential owners of that extra zuz. You did plan on giving us to us, and you admitted. Therefore, that grudgy budgy thingy, that Torah is allowed to be in their hearts. Otherwise, the Jew should not feel bad about the other one. Okay? The Seder, continue. So this is pshat up until now. We got almost an entire page to just explain the first case of the Mishnah of what does it mean, she'itu zeh. What's hitu zeh? One of the poilim who serves as an agent misled the other people. By the way, I saw them for a Mishnah that he doesn't have to be a worker, obviously. Even if he's not a painter, not a farmer, he could be stam an agent. Same halacha would apply, right? It's just an example. Let's continue a little bit. Pshita. Next case. Everybody's okay? Fine. Pshita. Okay. We can actually stop here because this is a good place to stop. Thank you very much. We're holding in Pshita. Remember, we are in Daf Ein Vav Amud Aleph. Started a new perek. Very excited. Pshita, thank you to everybody here. Navas Shalom B'Shemesh. Thank you to people on Torah Anytime YouTube. Stay tuned and see you tomorrow, 9:25 here or online any time of day or night. Thank you very much. Pshita. Good day. In this case,